Next startup is BrainSight AI. So I'll request a startup. You have a timer here which shows in front. It's 10 minutes. Even if it's less than that, it is fine. And request the jury's support to see that the Q&A just sticks to the 5 minutes, because we have 10 and others will be sitting here till 8 o'clock in the night.
Yeah. You be strict on the jury.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
One not will go like this.
Jury trick.
Yes, exactly.
Small hack. Jury members.
Okay.
Manish.
So BrainSight AI.
We'll break the jury into two parts. One person is spokesperson there, one person here. We'll just do two questions कर लेंगे. Two questions में करते हैं. हमारे सवाल इधर से जाएंगे. आपके एक nominate हो जाओ आप लोग. You are part of it, so you are disqualified from the jury.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present our work here. Thank you, ma'am. We are BrainSight AI. We are one in 3 worldwide companies doing a kind of analysis of the brain called connectomic analysis, which is essentially looking at the structural and functional connectivity of the brain to be able to map the functions of the brain. So the fact that you're paying attention to me is because there is an attention network in your brain which is getting activated. The fact that you're able to ignore the noises around you is because of a network which has been recently discovered called the salience network. These are networks which are extremely important to who you are, and it's important in medical, especially in surgeries today, to be able to ensure that the patient comes back to his normal life after a surgery. But this also has a whole lot of other implications. This company was started by Dr. Rimchim Agarwal and me. Dr. Rimchim did a PhD at NIMHANS, where she was looking at the use of connectomics for psychiatric disorders and serious mental disorders. So looking at things like schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression. These are disorders which have very few solutions out there. So if any of you have ever interacted with a patient with a psychiatric disorder, you would know that it's a very hard journey. It takes like a year, 2 years before you get a proper diagnosis, and then a very long time before you are able to solve for it. And that's because there are no body-based markers for psychiatric disorders. And the World Psychiatry Association actually just a couple of years back came out with the fact that connectomics, which is the functional connectivity of the brain, is the closest to a marker. Now, if you look at that, 1 in 3 worldwide people actually suffer from a psychiatric disorder or a neurological condition. Connectomics has implications for all of them. Connectomics has implications for brain tumor surgery, which we are already doing today. It has implications for solving really hard clinical problems in epilepsy, in dementia, early diagnosis of dementia, and so many other different applications, really. We believe that connectomics, I think one of the questions we get asked quite often is, we are only 1 of 3 worldwide companies. Why are there not other companies doing this? And the reason is because there are a confluence of factors which have come together now to be able to enable companies like us to do it. When we started out, we were 1 of 2 worldwide. And then there is this other company that just came out of the University of Washington. And the confluence of factors is the fact that this is extremely difficult analysis. Think of it like satellite image analysis. What we do is build a Google map of the brain using different MRIs. It's hard. It's on a cloud. What usually used to happen is in your Harvards and your Stanfords, you usually had a team of PhD neuroscientists who will take time out of the very interesting questions that they're looking at and then give it for medical problems. So if somebody has a tumor, they will get this set of PhD students to do this. So this science has become very relevant in the past 10 years. Computation has become much more cheaper in the past 10 years. The fact that there are people like us who are willing to bring this out into clinical practice has also become something new this year. In addition to the fact that India is a great place to do this right now, because India has a large number of these patients. And so if you have to build a database of connectivity patterns, India is probably the best place to do it. The fact that public healthcare is embracing innovation, digital health infrastructure is becoming so much big, and I'm really thankful to Ms. Shashibala for the support that they've given in the Bombay Municipal Corporation for our work. So just to give you a very quick view of what we do, we take 3 MRIs, which is called the diffusion MRI, the structural MRI, and the resting state functional MRI. They look at the oxygenation in the brain, they look at the water diffusion in the brain, and they look at the structures of the brain. And then we are able to create this connectomic map, as you see here, which is then like for language, for default mode network, salience, all of the things that I said before. As I mentioned earlier, there's lots of research now which has shown that this has the potential for so many unsolved clinical problems. I talked about a few of them. I also want to talk about the fact that this is great for research. So when we started out the company, we were only focused on medical. So how do you get into hospitals? Hospitals require a very regulated product. But over time, what has happened is that we also have so many requests from researchers across the world, and that has become a revenue stream for us unexpectedly, where these researchers are looking into very difficult problems of consciousness or what are the pain correlates in the brain and stuff like that. And they come to us, and we are able to do our analysis and give it to them at a price. Just a quick thing for the hospital today. We are in over 60 hospitals commercially, in over 106 hospitals where we are overall piloting, demoing, or working commercially. What happens there is our team goes out and sets the MRI, the usual MRI. The MRI, what we do is we set a set of parameters there, which allows the MRI to capture videos instead of just photographs. These videos are sent to us via our cloud. Our computational neuroscience algorithms works on top of it. In fact, amongst the 3 worldwide companies, only 2 of them are using AI for their work, and one of them is us. And then the results are sent back to the doctor, who then puts it on his surgery neuronavigation equipment while he's conducting a surgery, so that when he's conducting the surgery, he's able to see which areas to avoid. As I said, we are now in the early stages. We just got our ethical committee approvals. Is going on at the KEM hospital, and where they're looking at how to deploy this. And we hope to, as we go along in this year, to be able to kind of go to other hospitals in the BMC itself. I think one question that I get, these numbers are a little outdated. We are now in 106 hospitals, as I said. We've supported 3,000 plus live surgeries and over 120 physicians who have worked with us. Worldwide, we've got our patents. We have patents in India and in the US. We were one of the few startups which was selected to present to PM Modi at the India AI Summit. And we have a number of other accolades to our name. So yes, that's broadly about us, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, yes.
Okay. So I just ask 2 questions in one shot.
Yes, please.
One is, how does what I understood from your presentation is all your MRI details are sent on the cloud to your platform.
Yeah.
So one is, how does your platform take care of the variability in terms of 1.5 Tesla MRI, 3 Tesla MRI, and probably the scanner types as well, because it may be a G scanner or it might be Siemens or any other.
Yes.
So one is that. And second is, if you have heard about mid-journey breakthrough recently, how do you see that? Is it an opportunity or a threat for you?
Okay. All right, let me answer the first question. So we work with both 1.5 Tesla and 3 Tesla. We, of course, prefer 3 Tesla because of the higher resolution. But India, of course, has a lot of more 1.5 Tesla. So even at Tata Memorial here in Bombay, in a number of other hospitals, we are working with a 1.5 Tesla machine. So in those cases, we need a lot more work in increasing the signal-to-noise ratio of the MRI itself, and then be able to do the further analysis. We have worked with GE, Siemens, Toshiba, Chinese manufacturers, all of these various different MRIs, and our results have been validated by doctors in the surgery room against the direct electrical stimulation that they do of the patient, as well as against the task-based functional MRI that they have done. To the mid-journey one, I feel like I might be mixing it up with the Tribe version 2, which has been released by Meta. Is that in the same this thing? But could you talk a little bit more about it?
So Midjourney Breakthrough recently announced that, like we all know Midjourney is how to construct an image. So very recently they have announced that how they can construct a human twin. And, they can probably try to disrupt MRI to some extent and ultrasound to larger extent.
Got it.
And they are thinking about 2027 launch with some SPA type of model where you can start with that, then eventually if you can have centers and scanners across, you can provide it at virtually a fraction of the cost that we are spending today on MRIs and ultrasound.
Got it, understood. So in fact, let me actually, so amongst the various MRIs, what is easier to reconstruct is structural images. What is extremely difficult and requires a lot more thought process is your functional, looking at how diffusion goes across the brain. We are actually working with Dassault Systems, which is the French company, which is looking to build the human virtual twin. They were the ones who actually brought out the living heart, which is the virtual twin of the heart, and they're now looking at building the living twin of the brain. Now they know how to do structural, they're looking at us to do the functional. So I think there is a lot of, I do think that even Midjourney and others who will build these will come to us because we actually have the largest data of functional across the world. Yeah.
No. It's not so easy. I think the technology itself is different. What we do here is we use the magnetic resonance and all those things, right? On that front, they are going to use water and sound waves to construct the body. So it's going to be totally different. So you'll have to really go into the details about it and then think about it.
I'll check about it just to ensure that I know this part at least. But the living twin, which we are working on with Dassault, is based on MRI. Yeah.
Two things. One is the AI models are not really in your control, is what I understand. I think taking cues from there. So one thing that I want to know is how critical is your input to a surgery or a surgeon? And how reliable is that AI processing in that?
Right. Let me
and
talk.
Therefore,
Yeah,
how much is your value that you can derive in terms of monetization?
Absolutely.
And things?
So surgery was always our first entry point into the hospital because connectomics is very hard to figure out whether we are right or not, right? Like I think it's looking at structural connectivity in the brain. It's very hard to figure out if it actually matches, which is why we got in with brain tumor, because that's where the surgeon opens the brain and is able to validate our results against what they're seeing on the table. But we are now actually getting into epilepsy, stroke, we are getting into psychiatric disorders, so that'll be a horizontal movement there. In terms of our how valid this is, so the fact that surgeons are very difficult to impress, but across the country, surgeons are using us today because the alternative to get the functional maps of the brain is very cumbersome. So the alternative would have been a task-based functional MRI. So a patient goes into an MRI machine for 40 minutes. They ask him to do a task, let's say, like read a text or something. Now, when they're reading that text, it has to be very carefully calibrated and to be able to pick on those signals. It's hard. For patients who are paralyzed, comatose, visually impaired, children, very old, all of these patients can anyway not do a task-based functional MRI, but even for patients who are very crisp, right? It's very hard for them to sit 40 minutes in an MRI. If you've ever sat in an MRI, it's a very claustrophobic experience. So 40 minutes for just mapping one functions, and if you have to map like 9 functions of the brain, that's like 360 minutes. Nobody does that, right? So if you're going to go into a surgery, the surgeon essentially then starts with probably 1 function of a crisp patient and 0 functions of a non-crisp patient. And so in the absence of that, our results are based on a thing called a resting state functional MRI, which doesn't require the patient to do any task. And so what happens is you have the 9 functions mapped out with a 10-minute MRI, where the patient is resting without doing a task, and that is then used to map out all of these and give to the surgeon. So they find it extremely useful. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.